Welcome back to MMA Sucka Fight fans. My name is Nate Freeman. Today I'm joined by Jackie Cataline. She is making her MMA debut after a long wrestling career at the PFL Challenger Series on March 4th. Jackie, how you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing well. You're
Good.
driving back from Vegas. What exactly were you doing over there?
Oh, just went to see some friends. Just a one night thing. We left yesterday and going back today. I gotta go to a wrestling masters tournament today and tomorrow, so couldn't spend the whole weekend there.
Nice. Well, glad you at least had some time to spend with your friends there. I'm actually, once we get through with this, I'm heading to see a friend in Dallas. So
Oh, nice.
we're all sort of moving around and seeing friends.
Yeah.
So, as I mentioned, you did have a credentialed background in wrestling. You
Yeah.
were a two-time national champion. You won the Pan Ams at some point. Um,
Yes.
Talk to me. You retired less than a year ago.
Yeah.
Talk to me about um, how you feel post wrestling career. Um, are you? What are some of your favorite memories from that? And yeah, just talk to me a little bit about
Okay.
that.
So I wrestled for 21 years. I have five brothers that all wrestled. Both my parents coach, so it's kind of just a natural thing that I fell into, and I was good at. So I wrestled in high school. They didn't have girls wrestling, so I wrestled the boys, and I did fairly well. So I continued to do it after high school. My parents moved us to a different city. I didn't wrestle my senior year, so my dad got me and my younger brother Nico into freestyle. So we went to our first freestyle tournament, and because I had only ever wrestled boys, me and him kind of were like, okay, you go this way, I'll go this way, so we don't have to wrestle each other. And I get to the tournament, and there's girls wrestling, which there wasn't anything like that for me in high school. So I wrestled in the girls tournament, which was considered cadet because I was 17, so it's your age group, and I beat everybody. And the Olympic coach Terry Steiner approached my parents and told them, hey, I'm here recruiting people, and I would like to see your daughter wrestle at the university level, which is the college girls, tomorrow. And my parents were like, well, who are you? Like, they didn't, we had no idea anything about national team and anything like that. I was just strictly a high school wrestler. And my parents were like, okay. So I went out and I had to cut weight to make the weight for the next day, and made the weight, and I make it to the finals. And I wrestle a girl that this would have been her fourth time winning university nationals, and I beat her in the finals. So Terry's like, hey, we want her to come out and live at the Olympic Training Center while I was still in high school. So I did that, and kind of just, you know, it just all started from there. I started traveling and competing at international tournaments, and my parents, were coaching me the whole way. April was Olympic trials. Obviously, COVID postponed the actual Olympics that were supposed to be 2020. So 2021, they had the Olympic trials. I made it to the semifinals, and I had already kind of, because of my career has been so long, 21 years, I'm 33. There's a lot of young kids coming up. I already felt prior to having the Olympic trials postponed was like, okay, this 2020 is going to be my last year wrestling. I'm going to retire however far I get. And then COVID happened. I had to wait a little longer. So I make it to the semifinals at Olympic trials, and I lose, and I retired. I left my shoes on the mat. So I actually started out, a lot of people don't know this, I started out in martial arts prior to ever wrestling. My dad owned a martial arts school when I was born. So I started out doing that, and then just transitioned into wrestling because that's what the high school had. They don't have martial arts. Um, so my brother bought amateur and pro, a lot of local stuff here in California, Gladiator Challenge, all of that. So I trained over with him at Millennia, and I kind of just always trained, but I never took it too serious because wrestling was more important. So when I retired, I was like, oh, well, maybe now I should do it. So, I don't feel, obviously, wrestling has always been a part of my life. It's always going to be a part of my life. My parents still coach in high school. My kids will wrestle. But I don't feel like, oh God, I'm not wrestling anymore. I knew it, for me, I felt like, okay, this is the end of my career. And not necessarily like I'm going to be done competing for wrestling, but I'll still be a part of wrestling. But now MMA is kind of taking over for me. So obviously I have a fight in 2 weeks.
I think you broke up there a little bit. Driving through the Vegas desert, not necessarily good connection,
Yeah.
but we're going to work through it. So you did have a really long career in wrestling. It is very
Yeah.
rare, as far as I know, to wrestle past 30 at such a
Yeah.
high level. Although you did take several years off to start a family and all of that. Talk to me about
I did.
that little experience and why you came back after such a long time.
So obviously wrestling since I was 12 all the way till I had my son at 20. So I was already 8 years in when I had my first kid. And I kind of was just burnt out going to a wrestling tournament every weekend and, competing and cutting weight. And I just needed a little break, and I got pregnant, and that was my break. So I have 2 kids. And then when my son was about 4, I took him to a wrestling club, and he liked it. So then I was like, oh, well, maybe I should get back in shape, because I had gained weight from having kids. So maybe I'll get back in shape and see how I do, because it was a 5-year break in between the time that I had competed and had kids and went back. So my first tournament back was 2013. I wrestled at Nationals. And it's a big tournament to just kind of jump back into after 5 years off. But I had lost the weight and went to Nationals, and I made it to the finals, and I lost in the finals. But to me, it was like, okay, I took a 5-year break, and I can still take second at Nationals, so I'm coming back. So that's kind of how I jumped back into it.
Yeah, so that means after all that time, you had less mileage and stuff, and that helped sort of extend your career a
Yeah.
little bit, I would think. Talk to me
Yeah.
about some of your favorite memories from wrestling, and then talk to me about some of your favorite memories, and then some of your favorite people that you've met and all of that through that sport.
Okay, so my favorite memory is in high school, just because I was at league finals, and I made it to the finals, and the kid that I had to wrestle was actually a kid that had beat me in the beginning of the year. And I guess he was like going around and talking smack and saying, oh, I just have to beat the girl and I win league. And uh, he was the captain of our rival high school, and he was a senior. And so we go out, we wrestle, and I beat him 4-2. So I win league. I'm the only female to win league in, like, out of those 5 or 6 schools ever. And now nobody else can do it because they have girls. It's separate now. So I'll be the only girl to win boys league. So that was my favorite moment. Everybody in the crowd was cheering. The newspaper was there. So it was a good memory for me. Obviously, I have so many more. Like, I've traveled to other countries and done stuff. But to me, that one kind of sticks out. What else? I think Brazil. When I wrestled at the Pan Ams, I wrestled Brazil, obviously, and their venue was kind of like brick walls up into the stands, so we were kind of down in on the ground in the mats, and it was like everybody was cheering for her. She was like, their Olympic hopeful, and I pinned her. And the entire stands and audience was silent, and like you hear one American clapping in the background. So that one kind of stood out to me. But yeah, and people, I've met so many people through the sport of wrestling. Just like one of my best friends just won the Olympics. I mean, Jordan Burroughs, all of these people that I was on the national team with, we've traveled together, just experiencing these things together. It's not something that a lot of people get to experience. One, traveling out of the country, and then two, with these famous people in the sport of wrestling. So, but my favorite person and my favorite wrestler of all time, and person that I've met, is Rulon Gardner. Like, love the guy. He's down to earth. Beat one of the best wrestlers of all times, the Russian, and so he's probably one of the coolest people that I've met through wrestling.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And along similar lines, I know obviously you're making your MMA debut. Who are some wrestlers right now, American wrestlers specifically, that you would really like to see turn to MMA at some point, whether that's men, women, people that you know are training, people that you know that aren't training? Yeah, just give me some ideas on those.
Okay. Let me see. I know Victoria Anthony is, I think, transitioning now. I see a lot of her posts are um, her, sparring and stuff. So I'm excited about that one because she's a Spitfire. Who else? I don't know. I was one of the more mean, tougher wrestlers, more of like a brawler wrestler. So, oh, God, maybe Forrest Molinari would probably be a good one to transition. But also, it doesn't matter how good of a wrestler you are if you can't take a punch. It's not the sport for you. So it's something that I think every athlete would have to, try out to see if it's something that they can handle. Because wrestling and fighting, you can be the best wrestler. You could be Jordan Burroughs, and your wrestling it translates good, but also you have to worry about getting choked on a shot or, getting punched. And so, but I don't know. I don't know men wise who would be good. Obviously there's guys that wrestled that, like DC, he now commentates, he fought, Sarah McMahon that I'm friends with, like she fights. But people now that are wrestling, I can't think of anybody that would transition good over into fighting, except maybe Victoria.
We'll be on the lookout for her.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll be tracking her.
I think she does. I think she has a fight in a couple of weeks, her first amateur fight. So
Nice. We'll be on the lookout for it then.
yeah.
And that's a good segue into your MMA career. You're starting,
Yeah.
You have your first fight, and it's a professional fight in 2 weeks on March 4th. Talk to me. You talked about getting punched in the face is a big
Yeah.
adjustment. Talk to
Right.
me about how training's going for that. Obviously, you had done some training while you were still wrestling and everything, but now that you've
Yeah.
kicked it into gear, talk to me about how all of that is going.
It's going good. I feel good. This fight, I don't have to cut any weight, so I'm not stressed out about that. I can just focus on, what I need to do to win the fight. And I don't know. It's my first fight, so like it's gonna be my first time walking out to the cage. Not that I haven't been on big stages before, obviously in wrestling, but it's gonna be a little bit different of an experience. And going into such a big thing right away, I think I'll be able to handle it. But you never know, you know. But training
Right.
is going good. The weight is good. I feel good. So I just got to put it all together when I walk in the cage.
Along those lines, what has been some of the biggest adjustments that you've had to make going from wrestling to MMA? Was it the striking? Was it the cardio since MMA's longer rounds? Was it your stance? Because the wrestling stance is different than an MMA stance. What
Yeah.
were some of your biggest adjustments that you had to make?
I think probably working on the cardio, definitely. The stance is okay for me. I kind of switch back and forth. Um, but yeah, the cardio, because when I was wrestling, honestly, I was so good at wrestling that I didn't have to worry about eating healthy and making sure I was running every day. And, like I could just go based off of my, you know, experience. And I was confident in wrestling to, okay, maybe I don't have to be in the best shape for fighting. I know that I do. So I feel like I'm in better shape now going into fighting than I ever was in wrestling.
That makes sense. And
Yeah.
then Yeah, looking into your fight, you're facing Evelyn Martins. She's 2-0, 19
Yeah,
years old. Um, Fought both times in Titan FC, which is a well-respected regional organization in Florida. Give me your thoughts
yeah,
on her as an opponent. Have you seen any tape on her? Do you have any?
yeah.
Obviously, you
I've
don't want to
watched.
give away your full game plan or anything, but what
No,
are you
yeah,
seeing
I've
about the
watched.
fight?
I've watched both fights, and I have a game plan, and obviously I'm not gonna put that on the internet, but I think it's gonna be a good fight. I think of the 8 girls that are in the Challenger Series, we're probably the top 2. Um, so I think it'll be a very entertaining fight, and obviously I think it's gonna go my way, as I'm sure she does. So we'll see what happens on March 4th.
And what are your feelings right now? Are you feel what's the balance between excitement and nervousness, I guess is a good question because obviously you're super excited to get in there, but is
Yeah.
there a level of nerves as well?
Honestly, I don't feel nervous at all. And I don't know if that's from like just so much experience competing and going and doing it, um, that I just don't feel the nerves. I'm super excited, like just to be able to be in such a good promotion, and I've never had any amateur fights or ever stepped in a cage and fought before, and to just be able to do this right away. Um, I'm just stoked about it. And I think maybe the nerves will come once I get there, or, the day before or the day of weigh-ins, which it's normal. But I have no nerves right now. Everybody asks me, are you nervous? And I'm really not. I am preparing myself to go in there to be in the tournament to win $1 million. If I'm nervous about doing that, maybe I shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So obviously this is a lightweight female 155.
Yeah.
And if you get signed into the tournament, you're going to be facing, 155ers. But do you see
Yeah.
that as where your future will be down the line as well, or do you see yourself cutting down to 45 or even 35?
Um, this is not something. I'm 33. This is not something that I'm trying to do long term, no matter how good I am at it. It's something that I just wanted to do and see how I do. And I got an opportunity to go into PFL, win the $1 million. And obviously, I want to do that right now. I don't want to get a developmental deal. I don't want to, have to build up to that. I want to go in and show them, hey, I'm the person that's supposed to be in this tournament, and win the tournament, and maybe do it a second time, and you know give myself other opportunities to make money and do that, and not get punched in the face. So
That's fair.
yeah.
So obviously, we've talked about this a lot. Your background's wrestling and everything. What do you think fans will be surprised to see from you with your MMA skill set? Like, do you have a really good, I don't know, jab or something like that that people are gonna
I
be
feel like I'm
surprised to
I'm
see?
pretty well rounded, in regards to fighting. Like my stand up is obviously I can work on some things, but it's pretty good for somebody who's been training maybe a full year consistently outside of wrestling. Um, but I don't know. I'm not like the type of person that's going to shy away from what I'm good at. Obviously, I'm good at wrestling, but you know, we'll just see what happens when I get in there.
Fair enough. And you've competed in jiu-jitsu tournaments recently and Fight to Win and
Yeah,
promotions like that. And I assume that you've had walkout songs.
yeah.
What are you planning on having your walkout song be for your professional MMA debut?
Well, I guess everybody's going to have to tune in to listen.
Fair enough. That's I was hoping to get a little bit of info there, but we'll we'll move on. So um, I'll give you the last word. How can people follow you on social media? How can people watch the fight? And give any shout outs to sponsors, anybody in your camp or anything like that that you want to give a shout out to.
So my social media is under my name that's on the screen, Jackie the Hybrid Cataline, or Jackie Cataline. People can follow me there. The fight is going to be March 4th in Florida. They're going to be streaming it on Fubo TV. for these first Challenger Series fights. So actually tonight is the first set of fights. It's the men's light heavyweight. And they're going to have fights every week, I think, for the next 8 weeks on Fubo TV. So after those fights, everything's going to be on ESPN Plus. Obviously, I shout out to my parents, obviously, that coach me, to my coach at Millennia, Romy, my boyfriend who's here. Say hi.
He's
He's
also
also
a
an MMA
professional
fighter.
fighter as well. He just
Yes, he
got
is.
his first professional win recently as well.
Yes, he's going to have a fight probably a couple weeks after me also. So I'll be posting about that. My brothers, who are always have been my training partners, you know, everybody that's in my corner, my family, my kids. But I'm excited for March 4th, and hopefully everybody tunes in to watch.
We're excited to watch you make your professional MMA debut. Jackie Cataline, thanks for joining. And yeah, best of luck in your fight.
Thanks, Nate.
Thanks so much. Have a good one.